Hi guys, I'm Kim Pangaro, and welcome to the Atomic Mommy Podcast. This is your podcast to understand everything and anything about parenting life, where each week I speak to special guests and cover even the most taboo of parenting topics. Before we dive in, remember you can find and follow the Atomic Mommy Podcast on iTunes and Spotify, or you can visit my website to listen in at www.atomicmommy.net. Now, let's get to it. Today's episode is sponsored by Matt O'Hare, New Jersey's most awarded real estate agent, and here's what he has to say.
So in this volatile housing market right now more than ever, it matters who you work with. You need a buyer's agent that understands the market and is able to negotiate on your behalf without having to waive any contingencies. And also get you the credits required to buy down that volatile interest rate. And if you're a seller, you need a subject matter expert that knows how to market a home and leverage technology to get you an offer accepted over asking price. My name is Matt O'Hare, and this is what I do. Feel free to give me a call, 551-286-5771. I am licensed in both New York and New Jersey.
Today we have a special guest, and her name is Nikki Oden. She is the founder of Your Ideal Mom Life, host of the Love Your Mom Life podcast, and author of But Definitely Wear Mascara, hacks to help you love your mom life and yourself a little more. Her work has been featured in the Boston Globe, Today Parents, Cafe Mom, Kid Spot, Clean Plates, and Authority Magazine. She's a lawyer and mom mentor who helps working moms battle burnout by teaching them how to own their days and crush their goals without the mom guilt. After walking away from a lucrative career as a commercial litigator for a prestigious international law firm to become a stay-at-home mom, Nikki learned firsthand how easily a woman can completely lose herself in motherhood. Realizing that she needed something that was hers outside of being mommy and wife, Nikki started a home-based business and quickly experienced what it means to live in survival mode. Eventually, through a lot of trial and improvement, she figured out how to harmonize what she wants as an ambitious woman with who she wants to be as a mother, and is passionate about teaching other working moms how to do the same. Her mission is to help those moms love their mom lives and themselves a little more. You can learn more by visiting her website at www.youridealmomlife.com, and you can follow her on Instagram at Nikki Oden. Hi, Nikki. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show. I really appreciate you taking the time today. So let's get to it. So I know that you talk about mom burnout, and I want to know how you went from being a litigator, right, to doing this amazing thing with mom burnout and helping moms get through this journey. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. This is truly an honor for me to be on your show. And I absolutely love talking about battling mom burnout because it is something I am familiar with. So to answer your question, I used to be a commercial litigator for a very large, prestigious global law firm. And when I say commercial litigator, that's just a fancy way of saying I used to go to court in pencil skirts and heels and get paid a lot of money to fight with other people over contracts. And although the money was great and I had a great sense of independence, I didn't love it. It was really, really grueling. So when I became pregnant with my first child, I sat down and had a conversation with my husband. And I was like, this doesn't arch over the horizon for me. Like, I don't see myself doing this forever. And I would love to not keep doing it. And he was like, okay, so quit. And I was like, okay, like, did not know that was on the table. I was, really grateful that we were in a financial situation in which he could be the sole income earner while I stayed home with our daughter. So I was like, sign me up. When she was born, I took my 3 months maternity leave, and then I came back and I was like, peace out, big law. Here's my 2 weeks notice. I'm going to go be a stay-at-home mom. And I was like, I'm a really good lawyer and that's really hard. Like, I'm going to be a really good stay-at-home mom. How hard can that be? Right. Famous last words. It was definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. And right when my daughter was 9 months old and I felt like I was kind of like getting the hang of it, I found out I was pregnant with my son. So nursing is not birth control. And whoever needs to hear that, just know that it's true. So I eventually went from being like, in a very short amount of time, being this sort of high-powered lawyer to a stay-at-home mom of 2 under 2 who like didn't know when the last time she showered was. Like, was that this week? And what is this on my shirt? Is that from me or is that from one of you? You know, like just totally lost myself in motherhood. And I mean, it got to the point where I wasn't happy. And it was really hard for me to admit that out loud. I felt ungrateful. I felt like there was something wrong with me. My husband was out there working to provide for us, and I was at home with our kids the way I wanted to be, and I didn't like it. So that the moment that I sat him down again and told him, hey, I need something that's mine outside of being mommy and wife. Like I really want to have an impact outside of these 4 walls. And so that's when I started a home-based business. And that is when I really learned what it means to live in survival mode. Like I wanted to be there for my kids because again, I wasn't working outside of the home, as we say. And yet I wanted to do well in this home-based business. I wanted it to take off. I wanted to be successful, and marrying those 2 things together was really hard. It's not easy. And I know a lot of moms struggle with that. I mean, there were a lot of dishes that did not get done. There was a whole lot of laundry that just stayed in piles everywhere, and like a ton of eating in the car or eating standing up. I joke around. It's like that movie Bad Moms where I'm like shoving food in my face, trying to get from A to B where I'm already late getting to B. And I realized after a couple of years of living like that and kind of falling on my face over and over that I needed to change something in the way I was managing everything, because I really wasn't managing it well. And I developed some systems, some processes, and I realized later as I would share them with other moms that they worked for other moms. It wasn't just like unique to me. And that's where my company, Your Ideal Mom Life, was born. I was just really excited about helping other moms marry the 2 things of being who they want to be in terms of the woman with goals and dreams and being the mom they want to be. And a lot of times when we're trying to harmonize those 2 things, there's tremendous opportunity to burn out, as I know from personal experience. So that I'm super passionate about helping other moms do that. And that is why I also have a podcast called Love Your Mom Life. And I wrote a book all about this very topic. And it's because I really believe that a mother is the center of her household. Like if she's not happy, nobody's happy. But if she's feeling joyful and fulfilled, that's going to spill over into everything she does, especially the way she parents and how she shows up in her most important relationships, both professionally and personally. And so that is what I'm setting out to do, to change the world one mom at a time.
I think that what you're doing is fantastic. So I just want to make sure I say that out loud. But I know a lot of moms are going to have this crazy question about, okay, so she went from being a litigator to starting her own home-based business, and then she fell in love with the systems and she wanted to share that with other moms. So let's talk 2 aspects. So the first one is, how long did it take you to go from like starting your home-based business, right, to actually becoming successful? Because I know that we all fall flat on our face when we're starting a journey like ours. So from initial idea conception to where you are now, successful podcaster and author. So talk about that.
It's been a journey, and it's not a journey that is complete. I don't think that when you are an entrepreneur or even just a woman with goals and dreams who also has a family, that you can ever be like, I've got it. I've arrived. I have figured out everything. No, of course not. I mean, every phase of my children's, youth brings up different challenges for me. Every time I become a little bit more successful, I find I have new problems to deal with. And so it has definitely been, a journey. I mean, if I was going to put an amount of time on it for me personally, it's been like 3 or 4 years since from beginning to end, from when I really decided to dive into this and to where I am now. And there are moments in those years where you're like, is anyone listening to me? Is anyone reading what I just wrote? Like, does anyone care? It's really easy to tell yourself that you're not making an impact, but you just got to keep going. You just have to keep remembering why it matters to you and give yourself the win. Everything happens in little tiny incremental steps. It doesn't happen overnight. Like I didn't go from dreaming about having a podcast or writing a book to the next day having a podcast or a book. It took me time. It took me a lot of, really small little pushes forward to get to where I am now. And I'm still working on getting to other places. Like I'm still pushing myself forward. And I just have to pause every time I take one of those steps and be like, all right, you won at this. Even if it was a mistake, I give myself the win with the mistake because the mistake taught me either how to do it differently or what not to do, or, how to improve and just be better in general. And I think that's where a lot of us get stuck, especially as moms, because we have a lot distracting us. It's really easy to be like, it didn't work out. Or it's just not for me because you made one mistake or one misstep or something didn't take off the way you thought it was going to. And I'm really passionate about helping moms like not do that. Like I really want you to give yourself the win, like be nice to yourself, congratulate yourself the way you would your little kid when they have really small wins, because that's what's going to help you to keep going.
You said something really important there about the small wins. I think so many of us don't celebrate our small wins and even our mistakes because they lead us to the next small win. So I think that making sure you mention that is important. But you also touched on something else really important about how you can easily talk yourself out of doing things or even accomplishing certain things, and that without the systems that you put in place, you wouldn't be able to navigate through all those different moments, right? So let's talk about those systems. What are the systems that you have in place that you would recommend moms maybe start implementing or maybe try out and to help themselves, through their own journeys?
First and foremost, you have to make yourself a priority. And that is not something that could be like, oh, that would be nice if I could do that. Or one day when my kids are older, when this happens, or when I'm in this season of life, I'll make myself a priority. No, that has to be now. And nothing that you want or dream of is going to come together if you're not doing that. It's just not. You can't be the best mom. You can't be the best wife, friend, business owner, podcast host, writer, if you're not giving yourself that time to really nurture, what you need as a human being. So the first step is, I think, when you're a mom, is to wake up a little bit earlier. I do think that I know not everyone's a morning person, but you're going to have to get up earlier than you want to because of all the other humans you have to take care of. So if you could just wake up a little bit before they do, you would be amazed at the amount you can get done, even if it's in 5 minutes. Because again, we're talking about small wins. Mm-hmm. So if in that 5 minutes, you're just making yourself your first peaceful cup of coffee or tea, and that gives you some clarity and some patience to face all of your to-do lists and to help your kids when they wake up, that's a win, because that's a different place mentally than you were yesterday. And as you continue doing that, it compounds, and it really has a huge impact on your outlook, on your mindset, and the actions you're going to take. And I said, start with 5 minutes because I say always start small, but eventually you could work up to 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I'm up to an hour now. And in that first 30 minutes of every day, when not a soul is like uttering, like not a mouse, you can't even hear a mouse, right? Like the Christmas Carol. I'm doing work on my biggest, hairiest, most audacious goal. And that every day, that 30 minutes, it seems like no big deal, but it's become sacred to me because I know after just a week how much time I've spent on that task. And then after 2 weeks, a month, a year, I can look back and be like, look, I wrote a book in 30 minutes every morning. And that's how you conquer any huge goal.
That's smart. That's really smart. So that's an excellent point and a tip that you give out to moms. What's another one, like one of the best tips you could give other than spend a little time on yourself every day?
I would say really be intentional with your time, because time is finite. Me, you, the president, we all have 24 hours in a day. Like there's a saying about like, you and I have the same 24 hours as Beyonce and moms roll their eyes, right? But truly we do. The difference is how we spend it and how we utilize other people to help us in that 24 hours. I'm sure Beyonce has a lot of help you and I maybe don't have the same resources to have as much help, but we need to be doing that. We need to be thinking about, okay, I have these 24 hours, hopefully 7 of which I'm going to spend sleeping at least. And then in the rest of that time, what needs to be done by me and what just needs to be done? Doesn't necessarily need to be done by me. I think when we're really talking about being intentional is when we can go through these analyses. Like, do I need to be the person who is picking up groceries? Do I need to be the person who's vacuuming the floor or driving my kid to this event? Like, is there another mom who maybe is going this week and I'll do it next week? That kind of thing. Like, who can we lean on and how can we outsource so that we're making the most impact in the small amount of time that we have? And that's really, that's the one question people ask me, because I do a lot. I mean, I am a full-time practicing lawyer. I don't go into the office every day. I'm in the office 2 days a week, home 3 days. I love it. It's my most perfect arrangement. I'm also a full-time mom, and I have, the podcast. I have my company and my blog. And of course, I'm on the PTA, and I do like all those things, right? I say yes to some things that I feel are going to help my children. And people are like, when do you have time to do all this stuff? And the answer is, I am really intentional with it. So I set aside that time in the morning that is mine, that's sacred for me to work on my biggest, hairiest goals. And then in the rest of the day, I look at where am I wasting time doing things that other people could do for me.
I think that what you just said sums it all up. Like, where am I needed the most that I need to be spending that time on? And then what can I do to make sure that the other things get done without me having to be the one to do it? I think that's super important. Not many people can do that. So let's just give some of the moms some examples of how they can be intentional with their time, what they can do themselves, and what maybe, they can outsource, right? Because that's what we're talking about is outsourcing. So let's, give me an example of what you do to outsource versus what you do to do yourself.
So outsourcing, and I think COVID really normalized this, but I never go to the grocery store. I mean, unless like something's like really dire and I need to set foot in there, I order everything through grocery, like delivery. I actually use the Whole Foods through Amazon because it's like, I already have an Amazon account. They make it so easy. And it shows up in my door. And do I pay a little more for that? Probably. But like, let's think about what I'm getting in return. I'm getting my time where I can really make an impact. And in many cases, earn money doing things that only I can do, that my brain has to do. I'm not going to go schlep over to the grocery store and like go up and down the aisles and do all that unless, and here's the big exception, unless for you, that counts as self-care. If that's something you love and that absolutely like helps you calm down, like that's what you need. Like you don't want a manicure or pedicure. You want to go shop, like go up and down the aisles, then you do it. But if it's not serving you or contributing to your best life, stop doing it. Like it's really that simple. I talked to a mom of 10. I'll say that again. A mother of 10 children, 7 of which she birthed and 3 of which she adopted. And she's like the same way. Like you could imagine money is not like lying around in piles there with 10 kids, but she's like, I'm not going to the grocery store myself. I will pay the extra and have it come here. I don't have time to do something that somebody else could do for me. So I love giving that example because people are like, well, it's easy for you to say you probably have money to do that, but you're not thinking about the trade-off. So that's one way that I outsource. I also, things like getting my car washed, like that has to happen. Kids are gross. They eat things in your car. Tremendous opportunity for creatures to start living in there. And like that has to happen. So like I outsource that as well. I have someone come to my house, and while I'm sitting in the air conditioning, being productive and doing my best work and making an impact on the world, the person is cleaning my car. And so like, again, it's something that even going to a car wash place and sitting there and wasting that time, that's something I think about. Like, how can I automate this or delegate it?
I love everything that you just said because it just reminds me of the systems I put in place for myself to also maximize my time, my output, and live my best life. So I hate vacuuming, for example. I cannot stand vacuuming. It drives me insane. I have 4 different vacuum robots that run my whole household, all of my floors, so that I don't have to deal with it. And I
Great
also
example.
My grocery shopping because I don't want to be at the supermarket waiting on that long line, having to do the self-checkout. I don't need any of that stress. I like to I'll work and I'll do that. So I totally resonate with what you're saying. I love that you're talking about those systems because I think a lot of moms who are on the entrepreneurial journey don't realize that outsourcing is such a key ingredient to living a balanced life as a mom, as a wife, as a partner, as an entrepreneur. So I love that you said that. Now let's talk about your book, because I know that you said, like 5 minutes, 20 minutes here and there, 30 minutes. How long did it take you to write that with everything that you do? So I know that you're intentional with your time, but let's be real. It can be hard sometimes to fully commit to time to yourself. How did you manage balancing the book with also trying to, manage giving yourself some time?
So I think the first thing that was really important was that I didn't put some arbitrary deadline on myself. As long as I was working on it, diligently working on it for 30 minutes a day, I felt like I am making progress. And when I finish it, I finish it. And by the time I finish it, I did put a deadline on getting it edited and all that stuff. I wanted it out in print at a certain time. But getting to that point, I gave myself that grace, and I wasn't hard on myself in terms of you really should be done with this book by now, because I was working on it every day. And I had to remember that I also have these other obligations. But the reason it feels good and it still is taking care of myself and honoring who I am as a woman with goals and dreams outside of being mommy and wife is that I was doing it every day. I was giving myself that little push and that little step forward, and then congratulating myself for the win. Every time I did it, I was like, you did it. Awesome job. You're on your way. Even though objectively, maybe if you were looking at it, you'd be like, okay, that's nice. You have 30 pages written for a book. I never looked at it that way. If I ever had an initial thought that was like that, I took responsibility for my second thought and remembered that I was going to be kind to myself as I worked on this huge goal. And that's what kept me going. There was certainly plenty of times where I could have been like, no one's even going to read this, right? We could tell ourselves stuff like that. This thing is going to be a complete flop. No one's going to care. Why are you doing this? I'm doing it because it's important to me, because it feeds some part of my soul. And the human experience is about moving forward, about making progress and growing every day. And I want to be doing that for myself. And I want other moms to be doing that too, because we all have unique gifts and talents, and the world needs us to share those. Imagine how different mom life would be for some people if you never started Atomic Mommy. It would really, it's made a huge impact. It's so impressive what you've done in such a small amount of time. The jobs you've created and the outlets you've given other parents to talk about their stories, and then for readers to be like, I'm not alone. No one, that's the stuff I want moms to be thinking about when they're thinking about, why would this work for me? Or who am I to think I could do this? Why not you?
Yeah, you're right. Why not you? And I think that message is so, so, so important, because we are always striving to be the best version of ourselves, but then we always, end up forgetting or getting distracted, or we don't do what we say we're going to do, or maybe we lost our to-do list. I don't know. I've lost my to-do list about 1 million times. I have 100 lying around. So I totally understand where you're coming from, and thank you for the compliment, by the way. But you are in the same boat. You have this amazing brand that you've built, and in a very short period of time, I must say. So I am very, very much proud of you, and I think we need to show up for each other more often as moms and be proud of what we do and how we share and how we help others exceed and push them forward too. So I love that. And it sort of sounds like, are you embarking on a coaching program? Because you could be a coach. You could be like a mom coach, helping moms figure out their next steps. I would love to see that. So are you working on it?
I am considering it. And I think, when I think about it, my first thought, or first, the small baby step, is maybe having a listener come on to the show, onto Your Ideal Mom, or onto Love Your Mom Life, the podcast, and have me coach her, in real time.
That would be so cool. Oh my God. I want to listen to that live. Are you going to do it live, on YouTube Live?
Okay. So let's talk about this. All right. This is a real life coaching moment now, where you can help me. So okay. I have this resistance towards YouTube because of the whole video part of it. And here's a perfect example of where I am maybe a little bit in analysis paralysis, or holding myself back. But the tech video production part of it, and also, let's be honest, having to look cute all the time. These are the things I tell myself as to why I have not delved into a YouTube channel yet. But now, are you doing that to yourself? As you listen to this, what are the things you're telling yourself that are holding you back from this dream that if you had a magic wand, you would be achieving the dream, you would be living the dream. What are those things that are holding you back? So if we're thinking about the whole, YouTube thing in my example, I think that what I would need to do is just scale back, go, come back to myself a little bit and be like, okay, what's one thing I can do? Like, what's the very first step in that process? And just like with the podcast, it'll probably be Googling to find out what does it really entail, who and what kind of, who do I need on my team? What kind of equipment might I need? And then I give myself the win just for doing the Google search and reading the results, because now I know more than I did before and I can take the next step.
That is very, very good advice. I will say this for myself, because I also struggled for a really long time on doing videos and recording and live and all that nonsense. I have a friend. She did the whole podcasting for a long time, and she did books and speaking and whatever. And she gave me the best advice that that I have ever heard in my whole life. She said to me, whatever you're doing, do it with your whole heart. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what you wear. Nothing matters. It does not matter. If you are 100% yourself and authentic, people will watch, people will listen, people will take away what you're trying to share. Could be 5 people, could be 1 million people, doesn't matter. She said, just hit record. So I have made a point over the last, I'd say maybe year and a half, to just hit record on everything I do. Sometimes I'll have my makeup on and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll just put my hair in a hat or whatever. And sometimes
you look so cute.
Oh, well, thank you. But today I actually did my makeup. But yesterday, the day before that, I usually just curl my eyelashes, just put a hat on and go about my day. So I totally get the analysis paralysis. We always tend to overlook and overanalyze and try to figure out what our next best step is going to be. So I totally get that. But I think you would have an excellent YouTube live episode on your podcast with a guest. And I would love to hear that. I think you should do it. I do. Right. You should do it.
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
I do. I think you'd be great. And I'm challenging you to your first YouTube live episode. You heard it here first on Atomic Mommy. Yep. I challenge Nikki Oden of Love Your Mom Life podcast to do a YouTube live. I do challenge. But okay. I think you're good at it. I do. Because you're so passionate about it. And you have this great, I don't know, it's like a laid back coaching that you do, and I think that a lot of moms are going to resonate with that, so much so, especially live. Oh my God, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
I am.
Making ideas here.
Well, moms have to work together. So let's talk about, and this is going to be wrapping up, but let's talk about officially your book. So what's the title of your book and where do I find it?
The title of my book is But Definitely Wear Mascara, and it's full of hacks to help you love your mom life and yourself a little more. And you can find it wherever books are sold. So on Amazon, there's a Kindle version, there's an Audible version. You can find it at Barnes & Noble, and you can even find it on bookshop.org, where a percentage of the proceeds of your purchase will go to your local bookstore, depending on your zip code. So you can get it anywhere.
I'm excited. I'm going to read it. I read a lot of books, about probably 5 a week, so I'm really excited to read the book. I do read a lot. It's part of my whole writing process. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to read it. So, okay, now I need to ask you this other question. Is there a second book on the way?
Yes and no. And I just want to say this about the current book, that if you do read 5 books a week, for those of us who do not read that many books a week, the way I wrote But Definitely Wear Mascara is the chapters are really short and they're not necessarily in any kind of order so if you wanted to start on chapter 15, because that one has the least pages and that's how much time you have, you could. And then you could start again at chapter 1 and it's not like you would be out of sorts or confused. So that's another thing. I did that on purpose because I know how busy moms are. And it's all right, I got 3 minutes before I want to fall asleep. You could read a chapter in 3 minutes and get a lot out of it. So
I love that you did that. I love that you had readers a month for that. Wow. How did you come up with that?
I really try to put myself in my readers and my listeners' shoes. How am I going to add value here? And I try to add value in as many ways as possible. So that's why my episodes are relatively short, because I know most moms don't have an hour to be listening to a podcast. And that's why the chapters were short, because I also know that your time to yourself can be really limited sometimes. And I want you to get the most bang for your buck when you're taking that time for yourself.
You're absolutely amazing. You're awesome. The fact that you even thought about that. Most people wouldn't even think about that. So I think that that's awesome. Thank you for being you.
Thank you. So to answer your question about the second book, I'm actually working on a novel. So totally different genre. It's not, a personal development book. It is definitely outside my comfort zone. I consider myself a writer. So in that regard, I'm comfortable writing, and I love the process of writing. It's just the process of getting it published is a completely different beast to publish in fiction versus nonfiction. And I am growing. I will say that. I mean, there's going to be tremendous opportunity to give up, I'm sure. Rejection is rampant in this field, in this industry. But what do I have to lose?
Nothing.
Really, nothing. So why am I not going to try? I mean, I already wrote it, and that took me a long time. I mean, we're talking like over 10 years, because again, I'm at before I had kids, and I thought I was busy because I didn't know what busy was until I had kids. I wrote it like in little increments here and there. And then when the dream really sat on my heart, I started becoming, again, intentional with the 30 minutes every day. And it's taken me a long time, but I finished it. So I have a manuscript. And so yes, a second book hopefully is coming out. We'll see if it gets picked up, but I'm going to try.
You know what? The fact that you have that goal and that you're doing it just speaks volumes about your personality and who you are as an entrepreneur. And I think that that's very inspirational for women out there who want to do the same thing and haven't had a chance to do it or even think about it. It says a lot. It says it doesn't matter when you do it, as long as you do it at some point.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you're breathing, you have an opportunity to make your mark. It's really never too late until you stop breathing. And I really take that seriously. Every day I think about how magic doesn't happen inside your comfort zone. It happens outside your comfort zone. And the minute I stop pushing myself outside my comfort zone and stop trying to do things I've never done before is the minute I stop growing. And I don't ever want to stop growing. And I want to show my kids what that looks like. I want them to see me try and maybe fail, or see me try and succeed. And how do I handle those two things? Because guess what? What's going to happen to your kids too? They're going to try and they're going to fail, and they're going to try and they're going to succeed. And the fact that they might fail is not a reason to not try. You would never tell your kid, I don't think that you should try out for cheerleading because you're probably not going to make it. You would never say that to your kid. You'd be like, you're going to do your best. And if you don't make it, you learn something. You learn something about maybe what to do next year, or what kind of workouts or, gym classes you should be taking, and whatever it is, you will learn something. There will be no bad outcome. And I want us to start approaching life and goals that way as mothers, and also as women with goals and dreams.
Yeah, that's true. You do make a really strong point that we want our kids to push forward, even through failure, and even attempt it, even if they think they might fail, because you never know. And it's best to just try.
I agree.
I love that. I think that that's great that you said that, because so many of us don't realize that, our own insecurities sometimes get absorbed by our kids.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a good thing. So I do love that. And I want to finish up with this one question. It's just one question. You have 2 kids.
Correct.
You're married with a husband. You're in the office, a couple days a week, and then you're working on your home-based business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's a message you want to leave for moms everywhere so that they know that, it's worth listening to you and listening to your podcast? What's the one thing that you want to tell them?
Speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love. I know that our knee-jerk reaction sometimes when we want to feel guilty about something, some kind of mom fail, is going to be, I suck. You're the worst mom ever. Why would anyone ever, trust you with anything? I'll give you the first thought, because sometimes we can't always control the first thought. But the second thought, I want you to take responsibility for that and speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love, and really start to hone in on loving yourself, because everything is going to come from there. If you love yourself, your kids are going to love themselves, and it's going to spill over into everything else you do.
That's the most beautiful thing that I've heard in a really long time. So thank you for sharing that. And I appreciate that. So we're going to end the episode there. And thank you so much, Nikki Oden from Love Your Mom Life podcast. for being my guest, for being the first guest for the new season. And I cannot wait to read your new book and even for your second book. I'm excited for that one too.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun and really such an honor.
And there you have it, super parents. Another episode packed with joy, wisdom, and all the parental love in the universe. Remember to swoop back here every Wednesday for more parenting delights. Stay connected with our vibrant community on Instagram and Twitter at atomic_mommy. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube for more fantastic videos designed with you in mind. Craving more tips, guides, and the coolest parenting merch? Visit www.atomicmommy.com where the fun never ends.